Welcome to From Our Perspective. I'm joined by civil litigation partner Joe Lico to discuss a nearly $500,000 settlement he recovered for a client. When two parties can't agree on the sale of a home, frustration and disputes can follow. In this case, a partition action was the legal lifeline our client needed to resolve a complex situation. Joe, thank you for joining me today. Tell me more about our client in this case and why they needed your help.
So this was a case where we had a client who was involved in a relationship with the opposing party. As unfortunately things happen a lot of times, the relationship went south. They were not married. However, both parties were on the deed of the property as well as on the mortgage. So the issue came, well, upon the splitting up of the parties, who gets what amount of the house or of the property, that in this case, since they weren't married. And so our client came to us with a demonstration of how much she had paid and different things, and wanted our assistance with how am I going to get, or how is she going to get her best amount or her fair share of the property value of what has been put into the house.
And tell me, what is a partition action and why was it necessary in this case?
So partition actions are when there is two or more parties that have an ownership interest in a property, and the property can have a house on it or just be land, but essentially you're going to the court and saying, we cannot own this property or this home together in joint unison. And so you're asking the court to step in and either identify a percentage that each party owns, identify an amount, and then allow the parties to either buy each other out or sell the home and give each party their rightful shares of what they have put into the house.
And what are the key steps for initiating a partition action and the key elements involved in that?
So if you're looking at moving forward with a partition action, you want to right away get your documents in order. So there are 7 factors that a court will look at in deciding how much of the partition action dictates your percentage. So you want to be able to identify who's been paying the down payment, who's been paying the mortgage payment, who's paying the taxes, the utility bills, the HOA, those kind of things. So the first thing you want to do is get that together, because an attorney is what you're going to want to have is to go forth in court and do what's called a partition complaint, where you're again asking the court, please identify what each party owns and then issue an order to either sell or buy the other party out.
What are the rights and the obligations as a property co-owner in a partition action?
So obligations is whatever each party decides. I mean, if you want to be the one who's in charge of the mortgage, in charge of bills, that's entirely between the two of you. But your rights are going to be, you start out as a 50% owner of the property. The court will then make adjustments based upon who has been paying what, based on those 7 factors that I kind of identified earlier. So the court will look at, okay, who paid the down payment, who paid HOA payments, who's been paying taxes. Were there any improvements done? For example, did you finish the basement? And if so, who paid for that? Was it equally or was it one person? So there are those factors, which is why it's important to get an attorney involved, because attorneys should know those factors and can definitely put them and put your numbers to your favor.
Can a partition action be resolved once the process is started?
Of course, just because you file a lawsuit, it's like any other lawsuit. If the parties can reach an amicable agreement, that's fine. If the parties can reach a settlement as to who owns what or who's going to move out or what a buyout would be, that's all fine too. So just because, like every other lawsuit, a lawsuit is filed, doesn't mean you have to wait a year to a year and a half for a court order. It's always a possibility, but it can absolutely be resolved prior to going all the way through trial.
And ultimately, what was the outcome of the partition action in this case?
So in this case, we were able to demonstrate that our client had put forth the down payment, had been paying more than her share of the mortgage payments, had paid other utility bills and made improvements to the home. So we were able to take those numbers, apply them to the factors, and get her a resolution that got her actually more than what her standard 50% ownership would be based upon factors changing.
And if someone is watching and they're in a property dispute, what advice do you have?
Absolutely go get an attorney. That's the first thing, like I mentioned, is there are factors involved. Things don't always equate to an easy 50-50 split. You may be entitled to more, you may be entitled to less, but you should certainly get an attorney involved to review your numbers, review the history, and see one of two things: either is a lawsuit even necessary, or to try to help you to resolve to make sure you get your fair share of what you've put into the house.
Great advice, Joe. Thanks for sharing your perspective.
Of course.
A knowledgeable property rights attorney is often the best option to help you quickly settle these types of disputes. Reach out to us for a case assessment on our website or give us a call.